I got Flame Imp, Soulfire, and Murloc Tidecaller, the 1-2 Murloc. Usually, I don't like to keep Murlocs in this matchup because they're kind of weak on their own, but having two 1-drops is pretty nice, so I'm going to keep both of those and throw the Soulfire. Soulfire is a really good card in this matchup, but you just kind of want to draw into it. Alright, so I go first, which is always,
Alright,
well,
let me
it's
just go over
always,
my mulligans real quick, because apparently my mic was muted.
oh yeah, sure.
So yeah, basically I was just saying that sometimes I'm okay with keeping Auctioneer if I have like Prep Conceal, and if you have almost the entire combo, sometimes it's worthwhile. But if you don't have the entire thing, you pretty much just want a mulligan for removal. If you have the coin, SI Agent's kind of really strong in this matchup. Usually it'll clear something off the board and then present a 3/3 creature that they have to deal with. So it's a pretty good tempo swing in this deck. Other than that, though, you're pretty much just looking for backstabs, Abyss, even Shiv is good sometimes. Not quite as powerful as the other two. Deadly Poisons, Blade Flurries, really strong. Okay, so yeah,
Okay,
go
so
ahead and get started.
real quick, usually Flame Imp is a great opening, but since I have the Murloc Tidehunter, which I don't really like in this matchup because of the 1 health, but I'm going to play the Tidecaller because the Tidecaller becomes a Flame Imp pretty much no matter what. So, and then if I draw a War Leader, it's just going to be good game.
Okay, so now he's played this creature. This one is pretty small up front, but it grows quickly. I'm a little bit afraid of the Tidecaller sticking around too much. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this thing with a backstab. I would have liked to have seen him play a bigger creature at the start, such as a Flame Imp or a Knife Juggler early on, and have that be the target of my backstab. But due to the nature of this creature growing over the next couple turns, and the fact that I just need to keep the board clear, it's not a terrible target for the backstab. Backstabbing Flame Imp is always good because they take the free 3 points of damage, and you get the 1-for-1 trade, which is nice, but still, good to have those backstabs, and you're definitely going to want to clear the board of whatever they play on turn 1. There's temptation if he plays a 1-health creature to use the coin and go for this dagger play and clear it out that way. For instance, some people run that little 1/1 guy who's pretty bad. If you see that, it's sometimes a worthwhile play, but you have to make sure you're not going to need the coin in the upcoming turns because it is quite a useful card in this rogue deck. For instance, it lets you play the SI Agent on turn 2 and activate the combo. It also, lets you draw a card with the Auctioneer, so it's not the kind of thing that you want to use, unnecessarily. If you don't have any other options, you need that turn 1 dagger. It's worth considering, though.
Okay, this turn is a little awkward because while you would think you'd want to play the 2-mana Tidehunter that just walks you into like very easy clears with Shiv and etc. etc. So I'm going to play the Flame Imp here. And I'm also going to play the Abusive Sergeant just to get another body on the board and to use my mana efficiently. But, I mean, this usually Abusive is for clearing taunts, which you're not going to have to do here. It's good to trade up to kill things, but still.
Okay, so in this case, the fact that he's played this Abusive so early makes me think that his hand is probably not amazing because he didn't get any value out of the Battle Cry. As he's saying, it's not the most efficient Battle Cry in the rogue matchup. I mean, ideally you get 2 damage to the face. It's rare that you actually need it to trade up for creatures. But the fact that he's played it this early means that it's actually going to be tough for me to deal with both of those creatures. I'm probably going to have to dagger up if I want to remove this 2/1. But in this case, I'm going to go for removing the stronger creature, which is the Flame Imp. So I do have that coin SI, which is a huge play in this matchup. Opening backstab, coin, and SI, and being on the coin in this matchup is a huge advantage for the Miracle Rogue player. Unfortunately, I don't have anything I can use to clear out this Abusive Sergeant, but the pure fact that it can't trade 1-for-1 with this SI Agent means that he's going to either have to have Elven Archer, Mortal Coil, or, Direwolf, something. He needs another point of damage out of hand to clear this. So I feel okay leaving it on the board. I would clear it if I could, but this early, it's just not happening.
Okay, this is a make or break turn in these games, I find. If I drew a 1-drop, it would be a no-brainer at this point to throw down the Tidehunter and the 1-drop. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but the Tide Hunter looks like it was probably the better play last turn. But you just gotta pray sometimes they don't have the coin SI. I could tap and pray for a one drop, but I'm just gonna play the Tide Hunter, get bodies on the floor, and see what happens.
Okay, so he didn't trade because he didn't have the extra point of damage, and generally speaking, you don't want to toss your creatures in for damage. Unfortunately here, I've got Fan of Knives.
Yeah,
At this
that's
point, the
bad.
game is pretty over. I mean, he can get back into this, but getting that value out of the Fan of Knives is pretty massive. Um,
Yeah, this matchup is often won or lost in the first three turns. So I'm gonna definitely tap here, see what I can get. Okay, Flame Imp is pretty strong. I'm gonna play the Flame Imp, definitely. I don't really see a point of playing the Elven Archer when it can just get daggered. It would be nice to have another 1/1, but hopefully I could use that Battle Cry, and also pair it with Defender Vargas.
Now, in this case, I've got a pretty serious card advantage over the Warlock, and I'm looking pretty good. Uh, my combo finishers, if I draw into Leroy, is going to be pretty massive, but just with the amount of card advantage and the fact that I should be able to keep this SI agent on the board, you end up playing quite similar to a Tempo Rogue a lot of the time if you can get ahead in this matchup. So I've pretty much drawn perfectly here. I've got the second backstab for the Flame Imp in the top
Brutality.
9 cards. At this point, what I do with the rest of my mana is kind of a toss-up. I can play this Blood Mage here, but it doesn't really do much. At the same time, am I going to do anything else with my mana? Kind of questionable.
So
Um,
many options.
Daggering up is an okay use of mana if I don't want to spend any cards. But, do you want to play a poison and just go to the face? I don't think so. In the end, I think I'm just going to end up going to the face for 4 and passing this one over. His life total is getting really low, so I feel pretty comfortable playing a little bit slower. If he wants to get back into the game in terms of card advantage, he's going to have to abuse his hero power and just get even lower. So
Yes, I will. I have a great turn 6 with the War Leader and Cold Light Seer. Unfortunately, it's turn 5. Tapping, like in this situation, it gets hard drawing 2 of the 3-drop Murlocs because like, if I tap on turn 5, I can only play one of them, and they're gonna get slaughtered. I think the best play here is to hit
One shot.
one onto the SI, Argus up. I get 2 bodies out. He has to deal with them, and he can't just trade the SI7 either way and have it live, as far as I know.
okay, so on 5 mana here, it may have been a mistake in the end to go to the face with the dagger last turn. I only got 1 damage, and I'm probably going to have to dagger up again if I want to get value out of my deadly poison. Argus is one of the only plays that necessitates playing it this turn without attacking first. But that's the play I made. I have the option of going for a board clear and getting 3 to the face. Just given how desperate he is, I'm probably going to waste half of my deadly poison. So the play I'm going to make in the end is Blood Mage Shiv, clear out the taunt, and then I'll go ahead and I've got the option. I can either get more efficiency with my poison next turn by doing damage with a Shadow Step. So I think I'm going to do that. My health pool at this point is not very important because I just have so much health. He's playing from behind, and unless he can get on board, there's no way he's going to kill me with this deck from 26. So in the end, I think only getting 1 charge out of the poison is pretty weak, so I'll just go with the Shadow Step there.
Okay, I drew the card. That gets me back into the game. Or at least to what it seems like now. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer here. I don't want to tap. Pretty much the only way I get back is going to be with top decking Doomguard, which everybody loves. I'm going to throw down the War Leader, buff it up. So now it's a pretty huge swing, getting a 3-5 and a 4-4 and being able to Soulfire the
So far,
SI.
okay.
Usually, I mean, the Soulfire is a huge card to grab the board. I mean, you want to ideally use it on things like Van Cleef and Gadgetzan, but I mean, it's a no-brainer killing the SI.
Okay, so with the cards I have in my hand right now, I can at least kill the War Leader. Um,
I wonder.
let's see here. Yeah, he's not going to lose the point of health on the Oracle because I can't kill the War Leader first. So in the end, I won't be able to get a board clear unless I draw something godly off this fan, but still do need to clear that guy out.
Here we go.
So there's temptation here to just go for the face. I don't think it's necessary, and in fact against this deck it's very frightening to ever go to the face and leave Murlocs on the board, especially the War Leader. So I'm going to go ahead and clear that out, and then I'll just hit him for one to the face. He's getting low enough now where I can pretty much just rely on a few points of damage from top decks to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so low, but at the same time, the only way to get back in this game is to draw something really, really strong. So I think I'm gonna have to tap here anyway. This is probably the last time I'll be tapping. Also, one of the reasons why I tapped was because I drew the Voidwalker. If I only drew the Argent Spire, I might not be so tempted. Positioning is very important with this deck. I like to always put the Argent Squire in the middle because it's probably the best Argus target in the deck. And Blood Mage is a real pain. I'm just going to kill it, even though I might not have to, but I think it's worth it.
Okay, so in this case, I've finally gotten my Auctioneer. I'm halfway through the deck, and I do have a decent amount of spells. The question is, do I value a board clear here exceptionally high, or do I want to start getting cards off the Auctioneer? The nice thing about playing the Auctioneer is that unless he gets a Doomguard or his second Soulfire, it's unlikely it's actually going to get cleared this turn. At the same time, not getting a board clear is less than ideal. I think I will go ahead and make this play though anyways. So I'm going to hit him with this Blade Flurry, which will only leave the Argent Squire, and draw that one card. So he doesn't have many top decks that save him at this point.
Yeah, I'm done. At this point, you normally concede, but I'm gonna tap anyway to see what I get. And it's gonna be GG. Well played.
Throws at the Golden Murloc. Alright, GG. So in this case, I mean, this game pretty much just came down to getting the early removal. And the Murloc deck really pulls ahead by comboing its creatures and snowballing that early board control, which with, double backstab, coin, SI agent in the first 9 or 10 cards of my deck, it makes it really easy to prevent Murloc from doing that. So let me go ahead and update the score here.
Yeah, having backstab, coin, SI, you're pretty much done for unless you can get like a free Doomguard on turn 5. Alright, so you can do your mulligans first since they can actually see it.
I've got the Auctioneer once again. This time I don't have the combo pieces. Last time I had the prep, but no Auctioneer. So in this case, since I have the coin, I feel okay keeping it. Only if I have other strong removal. Now, I have a little bit. This is definitely going to go. You never want to keep Cold Blood in this matchup. Doesn't do very much work, especially since you don't run Argent Squires or anything that's going to benefit multiple times. Any creature you Cold Blood, other than like the Lyra finisher, is pretty much just going to end up dying. Fan of Knives is okay. But I don't know. A little slow with the Auctioneer. I think I'm gonna go ahead and keep this. That's a good card in this matchup. Okay. What are you doing for mulligans this game?
So I had Flame Imp, the Cold Light Seer, and Soulfire. So just keep the Flame Imp. You never want to keep Murlocs normally unless like you have the combos set in stone. But I have a pretty decent opener. don't like seeing the 4-drop and the 3-drop so early, but they're very powerful 4-drops and 3-drops, so it's okay.
Okay, now in this case, there's temptation to use the coin here. Unfortunately, I don't have any backstabs this game. This is probably a good flip side perspective to give, where I just end up letting him keep the Flame Imp and pass
It lives!
my turn.
Alright, no brainer. Knife Juggler is my only play. I'm not going to tap and do nothing. And Knife Juggler is about the strongest 2-drop for aggro there is, so pretty easy.
Okay, so I've got an interesting play here now. What I'm definitely going to go ahead and do is I drew this backstab. I'm going to use it. Ended up costing me 3 damage to the face. Now I've got two options here. I can either go for a Van Cleef play, which will be a 6/6 off of the coin, and that's pretty hard for him to remove. If he has a Soulfire, it dies to the Flame Imp, and that's a 3-for-1 trade, which is not unreasonable. If he can play out his entire hand next turn, which is extremely unlikely, he would need 3 1-drops plus a Soulfire. Either way, though, if I don't Van Cleef now and wait till the following turn, it's probably going to be a smaller Van Cleef. On the other hand, I could clear the board and just leave it empty. I think it's correct here to go for the Van Cleef and make him have the Soulfire, even though it uses up the coin. It just seems to get a big creature on board, which is pretty strong.
Yeah,
he
Van
has the
Cleef is one of the
Soulfire.
keys to this matchup. I'll back you up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, I could drop the War Leader here, but A, I want to fish for Soulfire or an Abusive Sergeant, and B, I have nothing in sight to help out the War Leader, and this deck is not about curving out nicely. It's more about curving out nicely while playing as many creatures as possible, so I don't want to play War Leader turn 3, Argus turn 4. I'm going to tap and most likely play the Squire. Okay, that's not a very good draw, but I will throw down the Squire.
The light protects me.
Kind of tempted to ram this into the Van Cleef just because Miracle Rogue has so many ways of clearing minions, but I don't think I'm going to, though. I'm just going to have to hope. This is another very bad situation for this deck. Because pretty much the keys to victory are SI7 and Coin or Big Van Cleef, but it's only one minion, and I have a swarm of minions, so we'll see.
Alright, so in this case I've got two options. It's still really early in the game mana-wise, so I'm a little bit prohibited in terms of playing multiple cards. I can either clear the bubble off and then trade in with this Flame Imp, but I think I value the health on my Van Cleef quite a bit. He would have definitely traded in his Flame Imp and Soulfired me last turn if he had it. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the Eviscerate right away. And then the question here becomes, do I want to hit him in the face for 6, which is pretty strong, or do I remove the bubble? Now the problem with leaving the bubble up is that if he plays any kind of stat boost on that, he's going to double the effectiveness, and I'm going to end up taking a lot more damage. So I think it's correct here, actually, to go ahead and take that off. Even though it wastes a lot of damage to the face, I don't have a ton of combo pieces in hand, so I need to just value my board control at this point in the game.
Few options. Let's see, I have 22 cards in my deck. I like to run numbers a lot. Coming from a poker background, it's not very good odds of drawing a Soulfire off of a tap. I think it's only about 10%, so I'm going to play Voidwalker and the Murloc Warleader. I'm going to hope that he doesn't have Deadly Poison. He might have used it on the he probably would have used it on the Flame Imp rather than using an Eviscerate. So I'm just going to protect myself with the Voidwalker a little bit, kind of buy some time. Play the War Leader. The War Leader is not ideal to play in this situation, but I could back it up with a Cold Light Seer, and it buys me a little time to top deck Soulfire, or even Doomguard would be somewhat nice in this situation.
So, you were correct, sir, in your assumption that I did not have a Deadly Poison because I would have used it to curve out on turn 3.
But
Fortunately for you, I got one off the top. So, once again, to preserve the health of my 6/6 Van Cleef, I'm going to use that to clear out the Void Walker and take a little bit more damage to the face, but definitely more than happy to get that Murloc Warleader off the board.
it's a big card to get rid of.
Yeah, preventing him from getting much value out of that is exceptionally strong. Because if he can combo off of that Warleader, that's, you know, once you get several big creatures, I have a hard time dealing with a board bigger than 3.
Alright, still no signs of removal. Like, it's always the scariest thing in this matchup to load up a board against a dagger with Deadly Poison and 1 charge, because, but at the same time, you kind of have to take chances in this matchup. The alternative would be to either Argus up and do essentially nothing, or tap for a miracle. Even the Murloc Tidehunter Cold Light Seer combo is not that great, especially since a War Leader just died and I have a 1 in 20 chance of drawing it next turn. I know people think that aggro takes no thought, but I would be thinking a lot in a ranked match right now, not even just voicing my opinions out. I think I'm gonna tap because it's just way too scary of an idea that I could just get Blade Flurry down. So I drew an Argent Squire, which is pretty nice. I think I made an error. I should have put the Argent Squire in between the other Argent Squire and the 2/1, but it's okay.
So, no Blade Flurry here, but I've got the next best thing. Actually, probably the better thing.
Yeah.
Now, it kind of sucks to use a poisoned up weapon, but in the interest of getting the board clear, I'm going to go ahead and take out this Squire, again, to preserve the health of my Van Cleef as well. Re-dagger because I have nothing really else to do with my mana, and go ahead and hit him in the face for 6. Now, there's something to be said about using Conceal there on him rather than re-daggering, but given that I have other uses for it in the future, I'm going to go ahead and hang on to it.
Okay, did not want to draw a Flame Imp, especially since the double Argus is really torturous, especially in a matchup where they have really good removal. I'm going to have to tap here. I get an Abusive Sergeant, which definitely not helping. He doesn't have a Poison Blade, so, you know, really not much to say here. Just going to throw as much high-value minions on the board. Kind of hope for the best. There's a good chance he has lethal already. And also, I just wanted to add that hindsight, the play would have mostly, I don't know your hand, but it probably was better to buff up the Tidehunter with the Cold Light instead of tapping. But you gotta take, make your assumptions.
So, I play Nagir's direct damage, and that'll be the game. Yeah.
Very interesting.
So, in this case, this is kind of the other side of how Miracle can win this matchup. I was able to basically ride the Van Cleef to victory, and he didn't have any Soulfire.
Van Cleef's too strong.
So, yeah. In the end, I think that game may have gone differently if you decided to ram your 3/2 in there earlier on in the game.
Yeah, that's
potentially.
Honestly,
I mean, I still lived at 4, but at the same time,
the thing is, against any other deck, you never want to do that. Except Miracle is probably the one. So for anyone watching this, I think that might have been a mistake because like they just have way too many ways to remove your board. So, kind of like your minion isn't like safe. In most matchups, your minion's somewhat safe to kind of do that and just delay, but I think you're right against Miracle. Although I did get you to burn an Eviscerate on it, And if I got a Doom Guard and was able to clear the Van Cleef, the game would have taken a huge swing, most likely.
Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, in the end, this matchup, I said we were going to do best of 3. Let's stick it at actually playing 3 games, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, sure.
So we'll go ahead and do that. This matchup, though, is definitely one of those ones where it's very dependent on which cards you open with. Like, I really have, as the Miracle Rogue, I've got 2 main kind of play styles. We went over actually both of them in the first 2 games. One is getting kind of that early SI agent and lots of great removal and just sticking on top of the board and playing like board control with your spells. And the other one is Cleef and then just kind of doing a similar thing with the spells, but relying a little bit on the Van Cleef for trading for board control. So in this case with this opening hand, keep Deadly Poison pretty much always in the Zoo matchup. Sinister Strike on its own, not very useful. Auctioneer with no coin, no prep, no conceal, no good. So I'll go ahead and get rid of those.
I'm keeping Flame Imp, Knife Juggler, throwing away Soulfire and Doom Guard, even though I'm very tempted to keep the Doom Guard. Like, it's like the worst thing you could probably ever do, but it might be the one way to beat Miracle, so I kind of feel like it was a mistake not keeping it in a silly way. Alright, so
You
I'm
have
gonna
to be able to play your whole hand out to justify that, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And this deck has some like 3 mana and 4. 3 mana is pretty chunky in this deck, and if you get too many of them, the Doom Guard really becomes a problem. All right, I just wanted to go over my play real quick. Now you could coin, Flame Imp. I'm actually going to opt to just play 1. It kind of makes your hand seem not as good by only playing one drop, and you get guaranteed value out of the Knife Juggler next turn by playing Knife Juggler, coin, Flame Imp. So you at least get that 1 knife, especially in this matchup. You don't really get that knife very often. And then to follow up, I have some pretty, like I said earlier, you don't really want to play your Murlocs until you get the pieces. Like, more so than Zoo, this deck is, you want to play like a single drop sometimes and kind of like gather the pieces until you could just vomit them on the floor and just take control of the game.
Okay, so this is actually a great game to have as a 3rd game because I don't have a stellar hand by any means here. I've got a few options to go with on turn 2. There is the dagger up play, and with no follow-up to that, there comes the question, do you hit the creature, which is always less than ideal. You end up taking 9 damage to the Flame Imp, which is pretty massive. Do you hit the face, thinking that next turn you can just re-dagger and Deadly Poison anyways, given that I will probably end up removing that with Deadly Poison Dagger next turn. Or do I dagger up, attack nothing, and then have the 2 mana free? In this case, I think because I do have a spell for 2 mana, I'm going to go ahead and do that. There is some validity, actually, to making this play. And in the interest of tempo, I think it probably is worth sapping this Flame Imp. Because it does, in the end, you know, takes him an extra 3 health to play it back. So it's not that bad. It's not the greatest mana tempo swing in the world, but the health is a nice perk.
Okay, so I'm still going to go with my plan. That sap tells me that he doesn't have a great hand. Obviously play the Knife Juggler first. I'm going to coin out a Flame Imp here. And my turn 3 is looking really good. I have a lot of options. So, pretty simple turn. That 3 health does hurt, but it would hurt a lot more if he was able to play a minion as well. So I'm feeling pretty good still.
Now, I picked up some valuable information from your turn. Without hearing you talk about it in the previous turns, I noticed that the card I sapped was this one right here, and the Flame Imp came from the middle of his hand, so I know that he's got another Flame Imp there. Is that correct?
Oh no!
Something of note to you guys, always make sure if a card gets returned to your hand that you play that same one if possible in the future, so your opponent doesn't catch that information that you have a second copy.
I was even going to say it's a good thing I don't have 1 golden copy and 1 regular, and I still did it.
I caught on anyways. Alright, so in this case, this is the play that I would have liked to have made last turn. My life total is going to suffer from this play, but the poisoned weapon is a great tool for keeping on top of board control with the zoo. So more than happy to clear out the knife juggler that way.
Okay, like I said before, it's always really scary loading up a board into a daggered weapon, but it's really not loading up the board because I'm obviously going to play the Flame Imp here. Actually, trying to think of positioning how I would want to Argus in the future. I think it doesn't really matter here because in this matchup, one health minions are your enemy in this matchup because of Shiv and Fan of Knives. So as long as I keep the one health minions together, I think positioning doesn't really matter at this point.
Alright, so my draw was not helpful at all. I have the opportunity to create a 4/4 Van Cleef, which can be great as we saw last game. The 4/4 is okay, the 6/6 is infinitely better because it doesn't die to Soulfire straight up. But in this case where he's already got board control, 4/4 Van Cleef is just going to get traded off with a Flame Imp and the 1/1, or even worse, if he does have the Soulfire, it gets cleared away and my board control is even in a worse spot than it is right now. On the other hand, I don't have much else to do. I'll probably end up hitting this Shiv to clear out the 2/1, hopefully drawing something nice. Don't draw anything nice. So I'll use my dagger, clear out another Flame Imp, which is another 3 to my face, and I'm going to spend my last 2 to just re-dagger. So not feeling amazing about that turn. At the same time, given the fact that my hand is not exceptionally strong, at least I got rid of half of the things on the board. But he's left with a Murloc and a Flame Imp, so I'm assuming he's got an Argus, and I'm going to be in trouble.
Okay, so I could tap here, but if I don't draw anything remarkable, like the one thing I would be looking for is probably a Direwolf Alpha. I don't want to play the Abusives on their own. There's no reason to use the Cold Light Seer unless it was a desperation move. It's pretty obvious to play Murkai in this situation, in my opinion. Going to keep the 1/1 in the middle still because it's probably the minion I'd want to taunt the most at this point just to get it to live. So I'm going to play the Murkai. 3/4 charge is pretty decent for 4 mana, and the fact that it's a Murloc and can grow rapidly, he might have to spend his turn removing it rather than doing other things. So I'm feeling pretty good still.
Okay, so got a couple options here. None of them are exceptional. I can heal up with the Earthen Ring. Unfortunately, that doesn't actually do anything for the board whatsoever, and it's not a great use of my mana. On the other hand, I am concerned that I might die next turn, given that I'm at 13 health and he's got 7 on the board, plus whatever buffs he can do out of hand. Potential Doomguard comes down, puts that up to 12. Soulfire plus some Murlocs. I'm in a pretty bad spot here in terms of my health total. At the same time, I don't think playing a Farseer and then having a trade-off with the Flame Imp is really going to do much to get me back into the game. So I think in the end the play that makes the most sense here, making a 4/4 Van Cleef, again, not exceptionally strong. It would be above the Flame Imp range, and if I kill the little scout with my dagger, Murkai, like, he'd have to trade both of them for it, which is okay, but it really still puts me in danger of him going to the face. So I think what I'm going to do is play the Azure Drake, get the instant card draw, and just pray for a backstab or something. Don't get anything of use off the top, so I'll clear out the 1/1 and hope that I don't die.
Alright, so I think I might have just gone lethal. Let's see, 5. Always don't forget to add the extra Murlocs you add for Murkai. So let's see, I got 5, 6, 8, 10, 14. Yep, that's going to be GG. And that is the Jekyll and Hyde nature of this matchup. So, buff. I'll put it all on the Murkai to make him crazy. And of course, like any good Warlock aggro player, I top deck the Soulfire.
Alright, so there you have it. Game 3 goes over to Murloc. Update the score here. And basically in that one, I mean, that was pretty straightforward. I had a kind of clunky hand. I ended up starting with an Auctioneer fairly early, got the second one sitting in my hand. I had the Azure Drake all along. Sinister Strike in that matchup wasn't doing anything for me. I was unable to combo out my Van Cleef. So, you know, I didn't get the removal, and I didn't get the opportunity to bring the Van Cleef out onto an open board or a small board as a large creature. Fell behind. You know, as soon as he gets 2, 3, 4 creatures on the board unanswered, and you're cleaning up half of them a turn, he's just going to snowball out of control. So I'm glad that that game went the way it did to represent the kind of full spectrum of how this matchup can
Yeah,
play out.
we really hit every possible outcome. Like I played this deck to Legendary last season during like the massive Miracle Rogue hype train, especially at the beginning of the season, because all the top 16 people hit Miracle Rogue. And so I played it quite a bit at like rank 1 and 2, etc. And that is every possible outcome. Either they have the great removal, they get a giant Van Cleef, and you don't have the answers, or you just win because your board just snowballs. So I think that was really good. We hit everything. And I'd say it's about, I think Miracle Rogue is a slight favorite, maybe, but I think it is pretty close to even. But it never looks even. It's always lopsided. But
Yeah,
I think in the grand scheme, it's pretty even, and probably about the same win rate as Zoo. I mean, I think there's more upside with the Murlocs, but it could kind of hurt your consistency a little bit against Miracle, especially because Fen Knives value. But it's close to even, I would
yeah.
say,
This
for
is one of the
people wondering.
matchups I think where Fan and Ives actually gets the most value. There's a lot of
Hmm.
cases where you end up just cycling it through for card draw. I mean,
Yeah,
there's quite a few matchups as a rogue player where I'm more than happy to Fan and Ives an empty board on turn 3. Things like Control Warrior, uh, even Ramp Druid to some extent. Like you just want to get rid of the card and do it at a time when it's not hurting you in terms of tempo. So this is fortunately one of the matchups where Fan and Ives actually can get some great value, killing
yeah,
you
really
know,
good.
the little Argent Squires, removing their bubbles or finishing them off, hitting
Yeah.
like abusive sergeants or
And
some
the
of the, you know,
2/1 Murlocs definitely hurt. Like when
yeah,
you're trying to set up for, like if you have a War Leader turn 3 and you have those that the Tide Hunter turn 2, like
yeah, absolutely.
sometimes, like most classes, you don't feel great about that play, but like it has the possibility of being amazing. But in this matchup, it's pretty hard to get that to stick.
As you were saying, though, it's definitely one of those matchups where, despite being relatively close, I'd probably put it at maybe 55% or 60% at most
Agreed.
in the Rogue's favor.
Agreed.
Um, as you were saying, the games rarely actually look close. It depends on, you know, if you're the Rogue player, did you get great amounts of removal or did you get the big Van Cleef? Or if you're the Murloc player, you know, do you have a strong board that doesn't get answered? And
Hmm.
basically, by kind of turn 3, turn 4, you should have a pretty good idea of how the game is going. And the only way that it really gets swung back in the Rogue's favor is if they load up the board and
Blade
then don't
Flurry.
actually get big health buffs to their creatures, and then you hit the Poison Blade Flurry.
Yeah,
Um,
that's one thing I would like to add is that if you're playing this deck and you're ahead, like really ahead, like two Flame Imps and a Knife Juggler and maybe like one other minion, it's not worth it to throw down your whole hand. You should just tap and play one minion. So you're drawing two cards, but you're only playing one. So if they do get a Blade Flurry, you still have a stockpile to kind of just throw down. Because usually the Blade Flurry, if they don't have it up already, will take their whole turn. So
mhm.
you can reload. Whereas if you're just throwing down, like is this, it's not really a race so much because like you will kill them very quickly. It's not like a bum rush aggro though, where you want to race them down as soon as possible.
Yeah, at the end of the day, both the Murloc and the Zoo aggro decks are quite powerful at repopulating the board. As long as you have the cards to do so, you pack tons of cheap creatures that you know can hit the board and get you a lot, create a lot of pressure. So you want to save enough cards in your hand that
Hmm.
if you are ahead, that you can easily repopulate the board
Yeah, you
in
can
one
get
or two
ahead very
turns.
quickly again instead of just being crippled with one card in your hand. It can be real brutal. Unless that one card's a Doom card, then feel free.
Yeah.
That's a big problem for the rogue. I found when I was playing Miracle Rogue, Doomguard is a really hard card to deal with. That 7 health does not go easily.
Yeah, I mean that's basically your Van Cleef in this matchup, right? I've
Hmm.
got the big Van Cleef early, you've got the Doomguard. Um, best case scenario you're hitting. I mean, the best case scenario is probably like Thalnos Backstab Abyss, which is still not
Yeah,
great. Card value wise, it's
exactly.
okay, but more commonly you're hitting like um, Backstab Dagger Abyss, which is an extra 5 to the face, which is never what you want.
Yeah, it's tough.
But even that, you feel pretty good about making that play. Unfortunately, it's a tough
You
card to
just
deal
got to
with.
do it.
Sometimes if they've played it and repopulated their hand afterwards, or they discarded two and still have a card or two in hand, you can get away with sapping it. But they're gonna just
Yeah,
get charge value again, so that's
yeah. Sep's a good stall though against Doomguard, I think.
yeah, it can be okay because they've got to spend the mana and discard the rest of their hand next turn more than likely. So sometimes that plays all right, but again, there's no real amazing ways of dealing with the Doomguard in this
Yeah.
deck. So
Another thing to note on the topic of Doomguard, real quick, is that oftentimes against Miracle Rogue, they don't have that many minions. So if I have like a Flame Imp up and they have an Earthen Farseer, like in most matchups, you want to trade the Doomguard to keep the extra body on the board. But I'll just take out my Flame Imp just to keep the Doomguard at 7 health because I know how
yeah,
hard 7 health is to deal with,
yeah,
and just go
absolutely.
face.
Because as soon as you trade in 3 points of health, you die to a single Abyss with the combo. Like
Exactly.
it gets so much more easy to remove. The other thing too is I can't backstab you as soon as you've taken damage. So I mean that pretty much you
Yeah, that's a
get
good
the free
point.
value out of the trade, which would have been a backstab. 2 points of damage anyway.
Very
So
true.
yeah, I mean definitely it's an interesting matchup. The Zoo matchup plays very very similar to this. The main difference is that the Fan of Knives is a little bit weaker there, and you can the harvest golems are actually pretty tough for rogues to deal with
Hmm.
efficiently. Um, I mean, they die to the poisoned weapon, uh, but then they leave behind the clone. If you've got, I mean, probably Thalnos backstab dagger is the best way to deal with them that
Definitely.
comes to mind, but it's not an easy card to remove. So I think Zoo's probably got maybe a little bit of a better matchup, but it's almost exactly the same for
Yeah,
the purpose
agreed.
of how it plays out, and the win rates are very similar as well. I give the slight edge to the Miracle Rogue again, uh,
In both,
but yeah,
definitely.
in both matchups, but
Yeah,
it's
I
very
think
close.
yeah, I think Zoo is probably over a consistency standpoint better against Miracle, but at the same time, the Murlocs have that crazy upside that can win you games that you have no business winning. So, but
Exactly.
I but I still think that like just like the Scarlet Crusader could be a pain and Harvest Golem, etc. They're stickier, and sticky is good against Miracle.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in and checking this show out today. Remember, if you have any decks that you want to see us feature, whether it's just you play Shaman or you play Handlock or whatever, and you want to see a couple videos about it, or if you have a specific matchup that you have trouble with, say you're a Handlock player and you're wondering how you beat, um, I don't know, whatever it is, some face decks or something, or how we'd play it, even if it's not a great matchup. Anything you want to see on here, check out our forums, post them up there, and we'll get around to making a video for you to feature your deck. And as always, have a good one. Good luck on ladder, and see you guys next time.